All right, we'll call to order the meeting for the Ellettsville Plan Commission for Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. Sandy, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Denise, roll call, please.
David Drake.
Here.
Nancy Walker. Terry Baker.
Here.
Don Calvert.
Here.
Sandra Hash.
Here.
Pamela Samples.
Here.
Pat Wesolowski. Okay, I don't know if your microphones are on.
Mine is, or at least the green light's on.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is
Can you
too.
hear me? Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Okay, has everyone looked at the minutes for July 8th?
Yes.
If so, can we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 8th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we don't have any old business on our agenda. Our first item of new business is preliminary plat approval for 63 single-family lots in Prominence Place, which is at the west end of West Upland Court. The petitioner is Value Built Construction, LLC. The case number is PC 21-17. Kevin?
All right, thank you. This is a fairly straightforward preliminary plat request. They're proposing 63 single-family lots over a 24-acre tract of land. The parcels are already zoned R1 single-family residential. It's been reviewed by our tech review committee. All the comments are received, which were not many to begin with, have been addressed. It has been noticed by mail and in the Herald Times since the Journal is no longer an option. Just kind of give an idea, I drew an outline roughly around it. I know this doesn't match exactly, but it'll have an entrance off of Loudon Road on the west side and off Upland Court, which will probably become Upland Street after development on the east side. And the addressing will be dealt with later, so don't concern yourself with that. Just the layout of the lots. On the Loudon Road side, there's only, I think, 5 or 6 lots, and right along the road on the south, the new road that'll go in on the south side. So there's still some vacant land on Loudon Road, and quite a bit, actually. Just go back, showing going north up Loudon towards Reeves. A lot of this is still remaining. I mean, technically it was subdivided once, but it's not really usable, so nothing is going on that part as of now. And I have a couple blown up sections of the plat in case there's any questions. The only notable area is this very last lot in the southeast corner. It's a sinkhole conservancy area, and my understanding is a portion of that will be turned into a pocket park, and I believe dedicated to the town.
Put your mouse on that again, please.
Yeah, it's not really working. It's on a mouse
right
pad.
there. Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Just a couple pictures I took of the site. The one on the left is coming from Upland Court. The one on the right's on Loudon Road. No, don't do that. The one on Loudon Road's actually a little farther north than where the entrance will be. I missed that one a little bit, but oops. And just a lot. I mean, the land itself is ready to be developed. It's fairly flat, which is helpful, and ready to go. And that is all I have. I can take any questions, or I can turn it over to the petitioner for any additional remarks.
Well, I have a friend that lives on Palisade,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at her house once
during one of our high water events,
Mm-hmm.
and she had very deep water all around her house. So will this development retain some of that water that was coming off the field into Prominence Point?
I'll let Rick answer that one.
Okay.
Rick Chopping, Van. Yeah, we've got, there'll be 3 detention ponds. There's quite a bit of off-site water that comes to this site. So we'll have 3 detention ponds and, I'll get point to them up here. So there'll be a pond, there's a pond in here, and then a pond in here. The water comes in through this way. And there's a pond, water quality pond up there. We don't really, we've got that pocket park down in here where we're looking at, there's like a sinkhole entrance point that shows up on the map about right in here, but we really don't. You can see this is kind of the crest right through here, and this water drains back this way. We'll pick up all our water in the street from here, and it all goes to a water quality pond. So we'll probably cut a little bit of that drainage area off that goes to Prominence Point and Palisades Drive. But there's a lot of offsite water that does, that, like I say, that comes down through, right through here. We'll pick up all that in the pond and then we'll pipe it this way and then it goes up that way.
So the sinkholes conservancy is also going to be some retention?
It probably, I mean, we're really not gonna change it much from what
Oh,
it is
okay.
now, but it'll cut off some of the, like I say, this is like a ridge right through here. There's a little, I mean, it's pretty flat, but this is like a drainage break, let's just put it that way, where it goes this way and this way, but we'll pick up this part of it over to the road, so everything that's in there will fall to the road. It's this strip up in through here, so it'll cut off a little bit over to their area.
What about pickup off the water off of Loudon Road? I live on Loudon Road.
Wait.
Well, she said somebody called
We'll
in
have-
about hers, so.
No.
why can't I
Public
let you know?
comment after the petitioner's done. Please hold your comments.
And I apologize, Rick, because I can't see that television at all. Would you mind to come over here to this one so we can see too?
No, this could be great. Okay. So, right through here, there's a little bit of a ridge, a little bit of a drainage break, and we'll pick up the water from like midway in these lots to over here to the edge of the road, and it all goes up this way in drainage. There'll be drainage basins, drainage structures all along the road. So we'll cut off a little bit of that water that goes to it. This is the sinkhole area down in this corner. And then there's a large amount of water that comes in this way from off-site, and we'll have a detention water quality basin here, and then a detention water quality basin in here, and then it all gets piped in, and then it goes over to this water quality basin here before it outlets to this, this is really a big, large sinkhole area up in here.
And that's still owned by the original owner.
Right, yes.
Thank you.
Kevin, with the potential for development to the north, how come there's no road stubs to the north? It looks like there's
Well,
some to the
here,
south and west.
I'll answer that, David. Up in here is a big detention. At one time, I thought about putting a road in right here, up here, extending this, but this is all sinkhole area, so we wouldn't be wanting to build a road across there. So this road section here is just one-sided, so anywhere along in here, whoever develops this can put a road stub in across there, and it's the most logical place. And then we provide a sewer stub out to this, to service this property if it develops. It's not too bad a property. And you can also see a sinkhole up in here, and I think there's a little bit of a sinkhole, but, so the road is gonna come in and go something like that. But this was the area to tie to the north. This is all not as good a developable ground that we wouldn't want to build a road across.
Okay, that answers that question.
And then we've stubbed to, down here and back out over here.
I've got a question. How's Sale Street gonna handle the extra traffic? Cause it gets pretty congested sometimes now.
I don't think there was a traffic study, there was not a traffic study.
There was not a traffic study with this. I mean, you're pretty well out there. I mean, here's Loudon Road over in here. And then, I guess, I'm not quite sure how to answer that, Terry. I mean, you look at it being split, some people go out this way. Probably most people will go out to Loudon and go around. Just because they're not going through you have to come in and turn to get out Prominence Point. They may go that way, but. I guess the other thing too about drainage to Loudon is, there's a high point in the road right up in here, so this little bit gets drained back this way, a couple lots, and then the rest of it all goes back to the east.
Okay, any more questions from the council at this point?
You said you were gonna, perhaps that bottom southeast lot, give that to the town, or?
Yeah, they're talking with the town, that the
Okay,
town could take, it's pretty flat right now. If you look
will
at
the town be responsible for that then?
Yeah, if it becomes a park, the town would be responsible. If not, it would be part of somebody's lot.
Okay.
Okay, would the petitioner like to make a presentation?
You want to add anything, Ernest, or no?
Well,
Here you come up to get it. Your name.
Be sure to sign in and say your name. Please.
thank you, Rick. I'm Ernest. I co-own Valleyville Construction with Bob Double over here. Basically, we tried to stick, as close, right with the ordinances and requirements of Ellettsville, and we're really trying to make this, something that creates workforce housing for Ellettsville, something that kind of brings, a broader tax base and provides good quality housing, to the area that we feel like is, been a little bit lacking. But, if you have any questions, both Bob and I would be happy to answer them now or later.
How will these houses compare to the ones that are currently in Prominence Point?
Sure. They'll be very comparable. We built houses in Greenbrier Meadows and Ruby Creek and, all of those newer subdivisions. And we're aiming to create housing that's a little bit more affordable, but still with good quality finishes and high quality of construction. But we're really targeting somewhere in that $225 and up range, trying to bring, $20 an hour, workers and create, realistic housing for them, creating that sense of community for them instead of, subjecting them to rentals and, that sort of thing.
Go ahead, Fred.
Kevin, what's our minimum lot size?
10,000 square feet.
So how does that come out on a point of an acre?
It's like 0.22 something. Everything on here is over 10,000.
Okay.
Barely, some of them, but they're all over.
Well, I appreciate you guys' time. Definitely feel free to reach out after to either Bob or myself. Appreciate it.
Anybody from the council have any more questions from the petitioner? Okay, seeing none. We'll now have public comment. Everybody gets three minutes, which doesn't sound like very long, but it is. So try to make your point. As efficiently as you can. If anyone who would like to speak, the first person, come on up to the podium and sign your name for us. I already know your name.
Have him say his name.
It's Michael Troy Harden. I live on Loudon Road. I live just before the crest of the hill that goes up. And my biggest concern is one, I didn't get any notification. I just found out about this hearing today about anything being developed on Loudon Road. Bloomington always sends out notices to owners within a mile radius of the project or if there's a hearing going on. So I don't know why Ellettsville doesn't do that.
When I talked to you the other day, didn't you see the sign or something on
It doesn't matter. Bloomington still sends out letters within a mile distance of any hearing that's going on.
We only send them out within 500 feet of the property.
Well, I'm damn close to that, and I still didn't get no notice.
Well, you weren't within the 500 or you would have gotten a
Well,
notice.
I think there's some lack on it, so.
I
Anyway,
measured everything
there's
on the
still,
computer.
There's still
so
a
no.
drainage problem on Loudon Road. I get water in my basement because all the water that comes down off that road already, where the county put a drain ditch and the lot next to me that comes down and runs across my property now. So I don't need any more of that. My basement already becomes a wading pool when we get these big torrential rains. We don't need any more water coming off onto Loudon Road.
Where are you
From
at
anything.
in relation to this picture?
I'm about a quarter mile up the road from the intersection of Sales and Loudon, or Reeves and Loudon.
If you're,
So,
would be at the end of the road that they would put in, there's gonna be a house, another house, and a field, then his house.
Okay. Okay. Well, they have to meet certain requirements for drainage as part of any
it didn't sound like
project.
anything was helping for the Loudon side of it. Sounded like they was all worried about Prominence Point.
Well, we can have, when you're done, we can have Rick address that again, but we can have him get with you and specifically address your concerns to make sure that it meets the requirements. Rick, can you address the drainage? I'm sorry, I was talking to Rick. Can you address the Loudon Road side drainage, specifically his area?
Well, we don't really drain much to Loudon Road area. I mean, right up in here is kind of like the high point, which breaks back down, and then all that flows back down that way, I believe. So we really, I mean, we pick up a little bit of that, but we wouldn't probably be doing anything to the ditches up through here. I mean, we could go out and take a look at his property and see what's going on, if there's some pipe that's draining anything, but our site really all drains to the east. Everything flows to the east.
Okay. So you can get with him and address his specific
Sure.
concern, make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be.
Sure, we can see what the issue is.
Okay. Was there any other public comment?
More questions?
All right, so I need to sign this? My name's Susan Johnson. And this guy's very nice. We've enjoyed seeing him. I didn't want to comment from him. He's been very polite. Really, I hate these things. I really only had 3 questions based on what was presented. The first one was a mention of Upland Street versus Upland Court, and does that impact the individuals in Prominence Point and requiring us to change our addresses?
It may.
Okay, that's an undue influence on us, so I think that needs to be investigated further.
That was requested by public safety.
Well, we've not received any notice, so that needs to...
No, it's not changing now.
I know,
at
but I
some
need to
point.
know when, and because obviously that has an impact.
It will get sent out if there is a change.
All right, well,
You'll, trust me,
That-
you will be notified.
okay, well, we need more information on that. I don't understand why there's no traffic study, because that's a public safety issue as well. And then the other thing I wanted to know is if there's any water or power lines that are going to be tapped into in Prominence Point, or are these all being from another source? Where are those water lines, sewer lines, and power lines being put in place, or are they being, like I said, coming off of Prominence Point? I didn't hear any mention of that as well. So those are my 3 questions. Somebody can answer those.
Rick, can you address that?
Yes, there's a water and sewer line here at the end of Upland Court, Street, whatever. And the water and sewer line tie in there. There's a water line, 12-inch water line that runs along down in here. We tie in right here, and then we'll tie in over here to the water line on Loudon Road. Power lines are, I think, part of this is in REMC and part of it is in Duke. So where they run their power lines is they'll tell us where they run them.
So some of the water lines are gonna be feeding, I guess, which water lines are feeding which homes? I mean, I don't understand how that's.
Well, so from Upland Court Street, there's an 8-inch water line, it'll tie in right there and run all the way west to Loudon. Everything's looped together so you get better water. And then there'll be a water line along each one of those streets. And then the sewer line kind of does the same thing. It runs along that main road to the top all the way out towards Loudon, and then the other streets feed into it.
And I didn't hear any comment on the traffic study, if there's plans to do those traffic studies for public safety. Nobody mentioned anything?
There wouldn't normally be a traffic study on a development this size out in this type of area. We would only do a traffic study if it was a very small, confined area that we were adding a lot of traffic to. I mean, these are our county roads. I mean, they're presumed to be able to handle the traffic.
So the traffic studies would just take place on the main roads like Sale and whatever?
Well, not even at Sale on this type. I mean, this is too far away from Sale for us to even do a traffic study
Okay,
on Sale.
I'm just giving that as an example. I'm just trying to understand what the code is and when those traffic studies are required
They're
based
not.
on the code.
We don't require traffic studies for anything.
Sometimes we do.
When it went through tech review, police and fire did not request traffic.
I'd like to get the cart before the horse.
Is that who usually generates traffic study requests, is the police and fire?
Sometimes.
I know if you hook onto the highway, it's probably a different situation
Yeah.
like 46.
And again, tell me, it's the fire department that wants our addresses changed for Upland Court to Upland Street? I'm sorry, I don't know what's driving this.
Indicates that it is still an enclosed area. Street is more of an open, thoroughfare. So your street is going to change from a cul-de-sac to a through street. So that's the need for the change from court to street.
But we don't do that. There's a governmental committee that does those things. It's not up to us. And before they take any action, they will have a meeting and they will give you notice and they will give you a certain period, which is generally a pretty long time, before your address actually has to change. But that's not us. They just brought that up as the potential that would probably happen. But we don't do that. We don't set those addresses.
I mean, the only change would really be from Upland Court to Upland Street.
Yes, but what I'm talking about is you have to update like all your bank information, all your, I mean, that's how married.
They give you plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
I went through that.
And that's so
Years
that,
ago.
That's
Through that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a royal pain, I'm
Well,
sorry, it is.
and that's really caused by the fact that if there's a police or fire run to your house, they know where it is. I mean,
Well, they know where it is now. What's wrong?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know that that's gonna make them find it any faster or easier. is my point.
Okay.
Have them when they're talking, please come up there because my tape recorder probably won't.
Well, I think was there anybody else for public comment? Okay, so Pam, what did you want to say?
Years ago, my addition was a one way in, one way out. You went in, you went around a circle, and you come out. They opened it up, they built tons of houses beside me, and we went through the change of our address. And they will give you ample time. At that time, I don't know if the post office still does it, but even the post office left mail to give me a certain amount of days to change it. So you should have been notified and enough time to do all that. Yes, I understand changes. Yes, you go through and you have to change your bank account and everything, but that's just what it does. I mean, I've been through it and I still live there. So you'll be okay.
They recently added a directional to my address, and my mail gets delivered with or without that directional, but I have just started adapting to the adding the directional whenever I do anything, and it's starting to catch on. So I didn't go to the bank or to the license bureau or anything like that, and it's just gradual. So I think the difference between court and street is still minor, and you can do it gradually. You'll still get your mail.
It's also legal documents that are fine. So that's,
It's a lot more than just your mail.
yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. This is news. I'm sorry if we're a little shocked. We didn't know this was coming. You know, this wasn't in any information presented, you know, so until now. So that's why I am a little put back. Sorry, that was a little bit of a bomb.
So do we have any more questions or comments from the Plan
Can I say
Commission?
something?
Sure.
I went to do an inspection on a house Ernest built in, on Ruby Creek Drive, I think it was. Libby Court. Well, they're the same to me, but anyway. And he wanted me to see it would be the same type of house that he would be building in this development. It was a little more square footage, I think. But what he made basic in that house, it was just such a nice house to go into with the features that a basic house would have. And he's never not passed an inspection since we've had the building department. And I think Kevin and I agree, we wish more builders, we had more like Ernest and Bob Double in town. They're responsive and they're fast. So that's all I wanted to say.
Anybody else from the Plan Commission?
I'm just thinking out loud. The court usually means it's a cul-de-sac on the end. And when I went out there and looked at that, there's a T intersection, and to the right is a cul-de-sac. To the left is a street that runs all the way through. Why would you have to change the name of the court? I mean, to the right, it would be a court, which would indicate, you see what I mean?
It would only be the part to the, if you're going into the left, that would change. The part that goes to the cul-de-sac can stay as a court because that's still a court.
Okay, so if you turn to the right, that still stays a
Yes.
court, but there's what, just maybe one or two houses facing that, I suppose?
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand that. Thank you.
Yep.
But that's our house.
That's your, it's a nice place.
We'll send you the bill for all the changes. No problem.
Okay, anybody else from the Plan Commission? Would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for the 63 single-family lots in Prominence Place.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Terry?
Yes, that was Terry.
Thank
Denise, roll call, please.
David Drake,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert.
Yes.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for putting in some nice housing for us. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Next item on our agenda is an amendment to the Governor Park Landscape Plan. Kevin.
These people up.
I'd like to catch him, but he's gonna be gone.
Okay.
All right, so last year, Governor Park came before the Planning Commission, it was approved. As part of the development plan, there was a landscape plan involved. Since then, I recently became aware of some changes that have been made to the plan, and that's why I sent an email out and wanted to know what the board's preference was. And it was, the feedback I got was to bring it before the board and look at this at a meeting and kind of decide whether you would accept the revised plan, you could approve portions of a revised plan, or you could say no to the revised plan, kind of whatever you think is best. Differences that were noted were some sidewalks removed on the north and east sides of the building. I think only a couple of canopy trees were removed. Most of the vegetation were shrubs. A lot of those were on the north side of the building. And I don't know, I think I sent both plans out for you to kind of compare. What I have doesn't show up great. So, I don't know, but you can kind of see on the north side where.
So I'm having a hard time figuring out which sidewalks, where the sidewalks are on here.
The sidewalk kind of runs around the perimeter of the building, more or less.
But there's still a sidewalk along the interior of that L that then works its way back up
Yeah, this is
to
like,
the entrance,
this
basically.
would be the proposed plan that would have a sidewalk runs up to 46 and kind of runs inside through the parking lot. Previous plan had it running around the building.
Which is a really nice feature for senior citizens.
So, but there were some mitigating circumstances, and I will let the petitioner kind of explain why they are proposing to revise the plan. That gives a little more context to the changes. So, if you don't mind, I'll turn this over to Hayden Lockhart to speak a little more.
Good evening, everybody. Hayden Lockhart with Allied Argenta. And I have something to hand out too, if that's, can I do that? Yeah. Okay. Kevin, I gave you one. Yeah, same thing, right? So there were a couple of things. So I will admit right off the bat that the first problem was we were running into so many huge cost increase. So when we came before the council, was it February or March of last year? It was approximately, close to 18 months ago. And, we had a great plan put together. We had submitted everything and we had a fixed budget. And that fixed budget was set by two different things. One of them is the tax credit authority, in Indiana. So as we started to go through it, we had a whole bunch of different things that happened to us. And one of those things was our lumber costs went from $800,000 to $1.5 million. Roofing has gone from $260,000 up to $514,000. And these are all costs that we had no way to be able to contain and fix. So we've kind of gone through our contingency. The other part of it though is we talked to the design team. They came up with some safety concerns. And if you look at the first picture on the left-hand side, that's the north side of the building. And you'll see we've kind of created a valley, almost an alleyway. And the things up here on the north side of the building, State Route 46 is up here. And then these are all this is the body shop, the pawn shops up here, all those things.
Can you use the mouse?
We can't see that from here.
Yeah, I was trying to track
Oh, sorry.
the mouse, but.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So those lots right there that look like they're blanks, that's where the big blue roof pawn shop is, the body shop, Lindsay Hayes' little White House and the other entrance to the remaining part of the trailer court. And if you look at the picture there, you can see you can't see those in the picture. It's because they are so much higher. So you see trees here, but in actuality, what's actually right there is the back end of the body shop, the back side of the pawn store, all those type of things, all right? So what we created without kind of realizing it is we've kind of got, a valley in there that goes in there that of course at night is going to be, there's lighting on the building and everything, but there's no other streetlights in the area. It's not residential, those aren't residential buildings up there. Nobody's gonna be in there in the evenings and stuff like that. So part of the concern also was if somebody fell back there, you know, nobody might notice them until the next day. If there was, it would be a great place if somebody was trying to take advantage of somebody, that would be a great place for them to think about doing that. And then on the east side, on this side here, we've got dumpster enclosures, we've got our transformers, and of course, this right here is all the existing remaining trailer park. And as you know, the trailer park hasn't been, you know, the most stellar part of the community over the years. We were glad to, you know, be in aid of taking some of that away. But what really happened, you know, in terms of, and we perhaps could have developed that at some point in the future, but it's not, certainly not given right now. So as we came about, we looked at it and said, you know, in reality, access to State Route 46, access around the front of the building, which is where the entrance and parking lot, et cetera, are, was obviously very important, same with landscaping. And then the rest of it looked to us like a potential safety issue. And then, of course, secondly, the other concern was we knew that we were so far up in our costs that something was going to have to give. You know, and that's just where we're at. We have a fixed budget. This is not a normal development budget. We have to rent a third of the apartments to people who make 30% or less of the adjusted median income, another 30% or 50% or less. So we're very, our rents are very capped, and it means that the building can't support what a student housing facility or something like that might be able to support.
What are these structures right here? The sidewalk's going to go out around that, this right here. What are
So
those?
we've got a dog park, we've got a picnic area with all handicapped accessible, we've got raised garden beds, and those are all things, there's a gazebo back there, and you know, those are all part of the site amenities that we've added, and we'd sure like to be able to keep those, you know what I mean?
Okay, what you're saying though, is you want to eliminate the outer sidewalk and put inside, more inside the area.
We didn't really change the inside portion. What happened was, but we did eliminate the sidewalk that was going here, you know, and back around here, okay? So the first photograph here is that kind of, literally, you've got a 3-story building on this side, and you've got, you know, 8 or 10 feet of berm here, and then you've got the backside of those commercial buildings. So you've got, you know, literally a canyon or a valley there. And then on this side, we have dumpster, transformers, you know, and then this old section of road here that's not been improved, and also, you know, the remnants from the trailer park.
But you're going to put them on, going to have sidewalks on the interior
That's
inside.
right, yes, absolutely. Sidewalks all around, you know, all around through here. So all the access is still there, just not on these, you know, the northern.
So how would
Outside.
someone get to that outer sidewalk? I mean, I assume there's back doors, but are there a lot of back doors that would lead to that?
You know, there's a maintenance door here for trash. There's a trash chute in the building, so all the seniors will just put their trash in the trash chute, and the maintenance guys will have to take it out. This is a patio here, so the access would only be, you know, in and out through the building. You know, originally the sidewalk would have been, you know, would let access over here, but, you know, this part is kind of open because this is the, you know, the road coming in here, right, by the trees here. But this is where it gets to be, you know, narrow and very.
So most likely someone's access is going to be to go out the front and walk up the interior sidewalk.
Absolutely. All your parking is here, all the handicap parking is here, and there's no parking whatsoever on this road or, you know, on this drive as you come in either.
Is there a way for them to get around to that backside though?
Through the building here. Yeah.
Where you're eliminating the sidewalk, they can get back there?
There is no sidewalk anymore to this.
I know
You
the
go
one
through
you
the doors.
wanted to eliminate.
Right.
But can they still have a way to get on that though?
To get onto the patio?
Oh, sure, you just come through the lobby.
No.
Oh,
Sorry. I'm not understanding.
So you're taking the sidewalk away in here.
Yep.
But is there a way for them, the residents, to still somehow access that?
Oh, yeah, it won't be fenced or anything. It's just going to be a grassy swale. In other words, it's going to be part of the drainage plan. You know, and it's now, it's gonna be graded so that it drains away from the building and also drains off of that berm where all the other, you know, businesses on 46 are. So, I mean, it'll be like a small lawn area that you could certainly walk on, but it's not gonna have any hard, it wouldn't have a sidewalk.
But the residents can still walk on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as a town's ADA coordinator, that concerns me though. That it won't still have a sidewalk, but they can still have access to it. But
What if there
I
was
don't
a
have to
railing?
look, so.
Well, what if there was a railing off the patio or something? You know what I mean? So for instance, you know, there's a, you know, there's doors here to get out to the patio area, okay? This is fairly sloped to this side, so even the grading is gonna be, you know, the patio is probably gonna be still 3 or 4 feet below the level of the road there. So that's gonna be, you know, people aren't gonna walk up and down that with any, you know, if there are kids there, but it's a 55 and over community, you know, it's unlikely there's gonna be children.
There won't be any fencing around the edge of the patio?
There is not planned, no, currently, no. But to Denis's point, I mean, certainly we could put, you know, a small area of a fence here with a gate or something like that, so that the mowers can still get in.
Oh, that'd be good.
That would be, you know, that would
That'd be
certainly
all
be
right.
alternative.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there isn't really any access from this side, so to speak. I mean, I guess there is because you've got the amenities here. But this is gonna be fenced. Everything's really gonna be accessed from this side. But to your point on the patio there, I mean, we could certainly put, you know, a small chain link fence or something like that across there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So
Yeah, appreciate that.
Kevin, would the revised plan have met the code and the requirements if they had brought it to us first?
Well, we don't have landscape requirements, so yes.
I mean, okay, so,
That would,
I mean.
yeah, the sidewalk isn't a public sidewalk, so that's fine.
So, I mean, I can obviously, the sidewalk around the north and the east, I would agree, would be kind of sketchy in the first place. As long as people can come out of the building and walk along the sidewalk to get through the development and back up to 46, I'm fine with that.
And there's still place for them to do a circular walk around the parking lot
Yeah.
and the front of the building if they wanted to go for a little stroll.
Yeah, I was just concerned about them accessing the grass from the patio near where they drop off.
Well, I appreciate this picture
Yes.
to understand the situation.
So thank you, Hayes.
Yes.
Sure. Any other
Well, so now,
questions?
I think we've kind of, does anybody else have any questions about the sidewalk?
No, I think we got the sidewalk.
So let's move on to the landscaping.
Okay. So from our perspective, I think it was all part of the same thing. So you know, again, because we created that alleyway effect up there, and because there was not going to be any access anymore, I mean, the thought process was, you know, nobody sees this. You know what I'm saying? So this is all lined with bushes and trees and stuff up here. I wouldn't necessarily call it landscaping. It's just what was never taken down and was never maintained, you know, after these businesses were built here. And that's not on our property. So the decision was made, you know, instead of doing anything back here that would cause, you know, that would need to be kind of looked after and things like that, if there wasn't going to be a sidewalk, maybe there wasn't as much of a need for, you know, the plantings, et cetera, around here.
And Kevin, what do you have to say about that?
I think that makes sense, that most of the landscaping, most of the stuff that was being removed was on that north side of the building. If you're not, I mean, it's not going to be seen. It's more likely to be a nuisance than anything. It serves no purpose.
It's not visible from 46, it's not visible from anywhere on the property unless you're on that patio, or for the split second where you pass that, you know, kind of, as you're passing it on the driveway, either of the two roads coming in. I mean, you can see it for, you know, a split second out of your side window, but that's it.
Might want to consider putting something back there with thorns or something. No, in all seriousness, to, you know, dissuade anyone from going back there that shouldn't be.
Put the bramble bushes in.
Yeah.
Okay, so was there any other changes other than the shrubs on the back? It looks like there's some differences here in the front of the parking lot.
Few ornamental trees where you first come in. thing, kind of along the driveway coming in. And I didn't bring my sheet with me where I highlighted everything.
I think what we did on some of that stuff in the front there is we downed it down a little bit, so some of the trees went down a little bit in the size. I mean, they still meet the 2 and 3 inch requirements, et cetera, et cetera. But we did go for some slightly less mature, larger trees and things like that. And we did a little bit more in terms of the kind of ground plantings and things along those lines.
Okay, does anyone from the Planning Commission have any further questions from the petitioner?
Did you have a count anywhere of how many trees you removed? Not shrubs, but trees?
It's on the first page.
First page?
There's three
This little 8.5 by 11.
3 shade trees, 11 ornamental trees.
But the shrubs is what took the big hit.
Yeah.
And it does look like there's still some shrubs around the back patio.
Correct. Yeah, it literally was in that, almost all of it was in that north corridor there. And again, the rationale was if the sidewalk was to go away, nobody's going to be looking at it or, and if it didn't have to be maintained, that would be good. And it's not visible from, you'd have to literally walk into the back of the building there to see it. Can't
Well,
see it.
I do think around your amenities, it would have been nice still to retain the couple of trees behind that, just to give shade on on your dog park and your other things. I see you had 3 across the front and 2 in the back. Now you've got 4 across the front and none in the back. So on a hot day, it's nice to be in the shade.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Sandy. It'd be nice to have some kind of shade tree back there where when they're sitting out there, they don't have the sun beating down on them. They could enjoy it.
And there's a pergola out there too, though, that is roofed.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, it's in that general area.
And then you removed 3 trees off the edge of the patio.
Well, my biggest concern here is that you consider older than 55 old and feeble. And
So I'll give you some insight on that, because as you probably know, the Richland, the addition we're doing to Richland right now, the new construction piece there, that's 62 and over. And there are some different kinds of, considerations. So for instance, in Indiana, the qualified allocation plan, which is what the tax credit authority in Indiana, that's their guidelines for everything you have to do. In a project like this, there's a certain degree of latitude in being 55 as opposed to 62 and older.
Helps you get prepared for retirement.
Exactly. Aging in place.
Yes. Now, I do want to say, the new senior citizens is just across here with a few trees. We've been hearing a lot of booms.
You've been hearing what, sorry?
A lot of booms.
That is because we are doing blasting.
Yeah. First, we thought it was thunder, but
Yeah. And Kevin may reconsider, but apparently right now, there's no blasting permit needed for Ellettsville. That's the Richland property though, not this one.
Okay, did anybody from the Planning Commission have any further questions?
could we squeeze one shade tree back in between your,
Tell you what, I will promise you, because I did not realize that the landscape architect had moved, had taken the 2 out of the back and moved 1 more to the front. So I don't know why they went from 3 in the front and 2 in the back to 4 in the front, so.
so maybe you could get 1 back in behind there, because there's not, they took out 4 between that and the street, which that would have been a nice barrier between them and 46. So, but trees can be added later too.
Yeah. Well, you can approve it with that as a stipulation too.
Okay, would everybody back
And
me up?
Kevin can make a red X on there for us when he wants it.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Was there anyone from the public who wanted to address this development? Okay, so we're back to the Plan Commission with a potential motion.
I make a motion to approve the changes suggested for Governor's Park with the condition that they add a shade tree on the backside of the amenities area.
But
And a fence off the patio to prevent people from walking between the two buildings.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
David Drew,
Yes?
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert.
Yes.
Sandra Hash.
Yes.
Pamela Sample.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank
All
you
right,
for
thank you.
bringing us good
Yes.
items that were a little easier to take care of.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the Planning Department update.
We will be having a meeting in October. The only thing we have right now is a voluntary annexation of a single lot owned by Kevin Ferris that connects to the rest of his property. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's done that periodically
Yeah.
over time.
So with that being said, if that's the only thing we have for next month, I would like to do that virtually instead of dragging everyone here for 5 minutes and then leaving.
Well, the governor's order is just through the end of September, so it'll all depend if he renews it again.
I have a feeling that's going to get renewed.
Yeah, probably.
But speaking of that, it's also been brought up, and I think Darla might have some more to add. I did talk to Dan Swafford, as did Darla, and he was interested in visiting the hybrid meeting that council does.
So I guess my question is the Plan Commission interested in adopting an electronic meeting policy that meets the provisions of the Indiana Code? And I assume you would want something, if you do, you would want something that's similar to what the town council adopted. So if you're interested, we can put that on the next agenda, and I can go back to the council's policy and revise it appropriately for the Plan Commission.
And what is the hybrid?
The new statute that was passed would allow, I shouldn't call it a hybrid, it's an electronic meeting policy, but what it would allow is for half the Plan Commission members, fewer than half, to attend meetings electronically. So at least a quorum would have to be here, present in person for meetings, but 3 of you could Zoom in and still participate.
We still have to have a majority here,
Yes, you have to have a quorum here
or quorum.
still.
Thank you.
And there's limits on how many times you can do that throughout the year. You couldn't do it for every meeting. I think the limit is 50% unless you're ill or you're in the military or there's some other exceptions that would allow you to do it more than 50% of the time.
I think it'd be a good idea, to give us a little flexibility.
But I mean, that would only be done if the Plan Commission decided that it was necessary. We wouldn't have to do it a certain number of times a year. I mean, just if we decided it was necessary.
Well, if you adopt the policy, then the members of the Plan Commission would be able to take advantage of being able to be off-site to attend meetings.
So we wouldn't have to decide that this meeting, we're gonna do it this way, and
No,
this meeting, we're gonna do it that way.
If a member was off-site for whatever reason because they were ill, but they still wanted to Zoom in, or they were on vacation and they wanted to Zoom in, they could still participate.
I mean, I'm okay with that. It sounds like an awful lot of tracking and an awful lot of work on the part of someone to keep track of how many times we've done it and who's done it and who hasn't done it, but I wouldn't be the one who has to do that,
Well,
so.
my suggestion when the council adopted it was it would be nice, like Sandy said, for flexibility, but it would be something just to have in your back pocket. I would suggest that you still plan on participating in person if at all possible, but just, if something came up, you could have that so you could Zoom in from Hawaii, Dave, or,
How do we decide when we're gonna have Zoom in or not?
Well, that would be up to you.
individually.
Yes. Right.
So would it kind of be first come, first served then?
Well, I mean, that would be something you would have to talk about. What the statute encourages the different boards or municipalities to do is to have a policy whereby the president of the board, whoever that is, would be notified by members in advance if they intended to Zoom in, just like you said, so somebody could keep track of who's on site or who's off site attending the meeting.
Oh, now it's becoming my responsibility.
Well, somebody has to keep track, but
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
I mean, I don't have a problem with having it as an option. I much prefer real meetings than Zoom meetings,
Me
but,
too.
but I don't mind, I don't care to have it as an option.
So if there's like a snowstorm or something and we're scheduled to have a meeting and then say 5 of them decide they're going to participate by Zoom, then we would have to cancel the meeting.
right. Right. The only way the whole board can participate by Zoom is if there's a emergency declaration in place by the governor. Otherwise, yes, half of you still have to be here. And if half of you can't be here, then the meeting would have to be canceled.
I could probably still get here in a snowstorm because I don't have far to come.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and that,
If the governor doesn't extend it next month, can we still do it that way? Or is that all Zoom's gone if he,
Through September.
Well, if he extends it, you would have to meet in person in October and vote on the policy in October. And so then for November, if somebody, you know, 3 of you wanted to participate electronically, you could. If the governor does not extend the public health emergency. Okay, so I'll get the policy ready.
Okay.
did you have anything else, Kevin?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, and next item on the agenda is privilege of the floor. Was there anyone in the audience that wanted to address us on something that is not on our, or was not on our agenda for tonight? Seeing none, do any of the Plan Commission members have comments they would like to make?
I do have a question. It's not from me, but, what's your thoughts on changing, like, what can be involved in the C3, like what could be built, opposed to the way it's written now?
We could review
Yeah, I
it.
mean, we've gone back and forth on that
Yeah.
a few times over the years. We've actually made some recent changes when we made it to where, what did we do? Make it where apartments weren't automatic,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a good idea for us to always, I mean, review those periodically and see if we think it's still appropriate.
We've gotten a little flack because C3 will allow amusement parks. So that might be something we would want to discourage unless,
Yeah.
unless it was 1,000 acres or more or something like that.
Yeah, so, if Kevin would like to bring that to the next meeting, we can look at it.
What's your thoughts on it?
My thought is our entire zoning ordinance needs looked at. I mean, it needs a full, there's a lot of stuff in there that's out of date, doesn't match up. Our permitted uses are not where they should be. Some of our zoning districts aren't even where they should be.
Well, let's just take baby steps.
So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely something. Are we just looking at C3, or do you want to look at other zoning districts, or what?
We probably should review all of them, I would
I
think.
think we ought to look at all the Cs. You know, because they can be tied together in some places, some move from one zone to another. So why not look at all three of them and see where we can match them up better?
Yeah, I mean, our downtown should be one type of commercial. Down 46 should be another type.
Yes.
And then there should be a neighborhood type commercial, which we have those three zones, but they don't match. And two of them allow the exact same things.
Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, help us make sense of it all.
Yeah.
Lead us, oh wise
How
one.
long do you want to be here?
How long do we want to be here?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to take a while.
Well, if we just do the Cs?
Yeah, well, you know how big the C's are?
Well, there's a third letter in the alphabet, I know that. Thanks, Pam.
I'll
I'll be on by Zoom that meeting.
I will too, I can sleep.
Right?
But, well, yeah, we'll go over what's allowed in the C districts. I'll put a chart together, which we sorely need anyway, but to give you an idea of what's allowed, and there's even a couple of things that are missing.
Yes.
Say he agrees with me. Well, I can't say.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.